Good evening, councillors, members of the gallery and members of the virtual gallery. Please be upstanding for acknowledgement of the country. I would like to acknowledge and extend my appreciation to the Dja Dja Wurrung people, the traditional custodians of the land that we are standing on today. Today we pay our respect to leaders and elders past, present and emerging. They hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and the hopes of all Dja Dja Wurrung people. Now for the prayer. Almighty God, we ask you to be present in this council, direct and guide our deliberations. We ask you to grant us wisdom and sensitivity as we deal with the business of Central Goldfields Shire. May each decision that we make advance the well-being of all our residents. This we pray. Amen. Commencing our agenda for this evening, there are no apologies, there are no leave of absence. Are there any conflicts of interest, councillors? No conflict of interests. A confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any concerns in relation to the previous? Yes. No concerns. We will deem them as moved and correct. There's no minutes of delegated and advisory committees. There are no petitions. Now we go to item number 8, officers' reports. Item 8.1, Central Goldfields Shire Council Budget 2023-24. Purpose of this report is to provide council with the 23-24 budget for adoption. The budget was made available for community feedback in May and June. This report outlines some changes made to the budget as a result of community feedback and to adjust for updated information on the financial assistance grant. The impact on the net result, cash expenditure and capital works program is minimal, as any changes made have been offset by either increased revenue or reduction in other expenditures. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Geoff Lovett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move that council thanks all submitters for providing feedback on the draft 2023-24 budget. Notes that the 2023-24 budget has been prepared in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020. Having considered all the submissions received on the draft 2023-24 budget, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020, adopts the 2023-24 budget in attachment 1 and continues the 50% discount to sporting clubs as agreed at the 24th of May 2022 Ordinary Council meeting until 31 December 2023 in recognition of the work still outstanding to determine and agree an equitable fee structure for clubs across the Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. Do I have a seconder? Oh, Councillor Lyons-Brown, I think you have your hands up. Councillor Lovett, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The budget process to date has consisted of the following: 5 half-day workshops on components of budget with councillors and 1 briefing on the consolidated budget. This has resulted in hundreds of hours going into the preparation of the budget. The budget is financially responsible and focuses on the implementation of the Council Plan 2021 to 2025. The budget outlines the resources required to deliver the diverse and extensive range of services we provide to the Central Goldfields community. The budget includes a rate increase of 3.5% in line with state government's fair go rate system. I'd like to point out, this council has never applied to the state government for a rate cap variation and will continue to manage council services as efficiently as possible within the rate cap. Council's waste charges have been increased by 8.7% in this budget, the standard waste charges. This is to ensure that the full cost of council's whole waste management function continues to be fully funded by waste charges. Waste management is becoming increasingly costly to maintain a full service, and accordingly, it is very much on council's risk radar for close monitoring. The budget includes a capital works program of $18.5 million, $3.2 million of which is considered carryover projects. Most of these carryover projects have begun, but will be completed in the 2023-24 financial year. There have been changes made between the draft budget issued for public comment and the finalised budget, some of which are as follows. $378,000 additional costs relating to increased work cover premium following notification of the estimated premium from council's insurer. $205,000 added for additional positions, including a community development officer and a Live for Life officer. These are grant funded. $600,000 additional revenue following the release of the federal assistance grant allocation. I believe this is a very responsible budget, struck to balance the need for continuous improvement within council, whilst acknowledging that economically times are very tough. I had much pleasure in presenting this budget for adoption. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sproul, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following on from Councillor Lovett, I just want to touch on that $378,000 in increased cost to work cover. I know the office has put in a fair bit of work to try and set aside some funds for other contingencies, but with this cost blowout, that's had to be put on the back burner. But I also want to recognise the inclusion of the community development officer, which I think is a massive bonus going forwards. This year, we saw the consultation process with the draft budget run through videos with Philippa and Lucy. So thank you for that. I think they were pretty well received. And just want to acknowledge Philippa and the staff for their tremendous amount of work on getting the document prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Is there anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor.
Just obviously what Councillor Sproul said about the $378,000 that weren't covered. These sort of things are sprung. That was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. This came out of wow. So we have to deal with it in the budget. We have to deal with how we deal with it. So things just happen and we have to deal with things. Budget's very tight. We can't move much on it. And we work hard to keep it in the right, going the right way. So I don't expect us to go over. I expect us to be very level for the whole year, as it has been the past year or two. And also the Audit and Risk Committee will be having a good look through it as we go along.
I'd just like to speak. I would just like to note that over 40 services we deliver. Yes, thank you. All right, we'll put the motion. All in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 8.2, draft procurement policy, and that's a 2023 review. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the draft procurement policy as part of the 2023 review, and this is for endorsement of the draft policy to be made available for community feedback. Do I have a mover for this 8.2? Councillor Wayne Sproul.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, the microphone is turning off and on again. There we go. I'd like to move the recommendation that council, one, endorse the draft procurement policy 2023 as attached for public consultation. Two, note that the feedback period will close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of July 2023. Three, note that the final procurement policy 2023, taking into consideration public feedback, be considered for adoption at the council meeting scheduled for the 29th of August 2023.
Thank you, councillor. Do we have a seconder to this? Councillor Elizabeth Long. Councillor Sproul, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The procurement policy is a very important document. It sets out the way the council and officers spend any monies for goods and services. It covers the thresholds that trigger different levels of authorisations for increasing amounts of money, and it sets out the criteria for which our contracts and tenders are evaluated against and ultimately awarded on. The document lists their effective legislation and policy compliance and control, such as conduct, conflict of interest, disclosure and disclosure of information. It also lists best practice procurement principles, which is vital for organisations who deal with public money. Importantly, the document states that procurement data will be captured and analysed with a report presented to the executive team, council and the audit and risk committee on our procurement performance. The document also clearly states that throughout local and regional suppliers should be favoured and weighted accordingly, which to me is very important, but also understandably difficult in our environment. The ever-increasing demands on tender documentation must not be easy for local businesses, and there is a real risk of making it too difficult for smaller organisations. Not everything can be purchased or supplied locally, but I'm glad that we recognise the importance of supporting locals where we can. All the proposed changes and additions to the document are highlighted in yellow for easy reference. And as mentioned in the recommendation, this is a draft version and will be open for public comment until July 26.
Thank you, councillor Sproul. Councillor Long.
Nothing further to add, Madam
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak to this motion? No? Thank you. Well, we'll put the motion. All in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to 8.3, the biannual report and of the Audit and Risk Committee. So, slide place here. Now we have page 148. I would like a mover for this motion, Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move that council receives the biannual report of the Audit and Risk Committee for the period to 31 May 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. Can I have a seconder to this motion, please? Councillor Murphy. Would you like to speak to this, Councillor Lovett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It required under section 54/5 of the Local Government Act 2020, the Audit and Risk Committee report must be prepared and presented to council on a biannual basis, and that's the purpose of this report. During the reporting period, the current term of independent member John Watson expired, and his reappointment was accepted by council at a subsequent ordinary council meeting. Sadly, at the meeting we've just held on the 19th of June, independent member Linda McNeil tendered her resignation. Linda was an excellent member, bringing a wealth of experience to our Audit and Risk Committee, particularly on risk management, which has become a very important part of the functions of this committee. Council will need to advertise for a replacement for Linda as soon as possible. The report provides a summary of regular matters which are actively considered by the Audit and Risk Committee during each of its meetings. For example, the Chief Executive Officer's report, including updates on legal and regulatory compliance matters. A report on the current status of the defined benefit superannuation scheme. The committee look at CEO credit card and councillor expenses. And additionally, the committee have received a report on risk management update, cyber security update, including protective data security plan and rates collection and outstanding amounts. These meetings are very long, they're very comprehensive, and the committee delve into all aspects of council's activities. The 3 independent members we have are very experienced in local government, and I can assure everybody they don't leave a single stone unturned. So this is a very good report. The committee closely monitors management's progress on implementation of internal audit recommendations, and on an annual basis, the committee do a self-assessment and the results are reported to the council by the CEO. The committee works proactively and constructively with management to support continuous improvement in the identification and management of risk audit matters. I should have also pointed out, as well as the CEO, all the general managers attend this meeting and are available for questions by the committee. The committee also discussed the external members asked. They also discussed the requirement for an external probity advisor to be appointed on contracts in excess of $1.5 million. They felt that this might have been a bit low, but the CEO pointed out that $1.5 million in a shire like Central Goldfields Shire is quite an acceptable position. So we, on all contracts in excess of $1.5 million, where the contract is considered to be very complex, or where there is a high risk, or even if a contract is seen to be controversial in the public, we appoint an external probity advisor. For example, when we get round to issuing a contract for the 50-metre Olympic swimming pool, that would be an example of where we need to have an external probity advisor, because it will be a very complex issue. So the committee are very active, and once again, I take great pleasure in presenting this biannual report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Excellent report too, councillor. Seconder, would you like to speak, please? Councillor.
Thanks, councillor Lovett. As I'm on this committee as well, I really like being on this committee. Gets my juices going. But I think we've got to sort of make note that John Watson and Robert Tomasini has been there since 2017. And Linda McNeil came on a few years ago. There to see Linda go. She was very good, and we look to get someone that her experience onto the membership. What are the things that I like? Because I'm digging right into it, and I'm about to say, oh, this is what I'm going to say today. So I have everything written down, everything's ready to go. But Robert Tomasini seems to always get in front of me, so he is very good at understanding and delving into the report, which is the thing that I would delve into. So a lot of the times he probably done 10 of what I wanted to do, and I get 2 or 3. So the experience on this committee, what we have been saying for a few years now, it's next month. And I'm very happy that we've still got John Watson and Robert Tomasini there for another year. And if you get someone for Linda, when that happens, that'll be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Would anyone wish to speak against the report? Does anyone else wish to speak to it? No? I'll put that motion. All in favour? That is unanimous. Congratulations to the finance team. Great budget. Microphone, please. I'm sorry. I congratulate the finance team for a great budget this year. Thank you. 8.4, panel of approved suppliers, specialist projects, services. The purpose of this report is to brief councillors on the recommendation to award contract G1746-23 specialist project services panel contract following a public tender process. The contract is a schedule of rates contract, and the anticipated spend under the contract is above the CEO's financial delegation. The contract is required to be awarded by council. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Sproul.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation that council award contract G1746-23 to the following contractors across the listed service categories and authorise the CEO to execute these contracts under delegation. Now, there's 43 individual organisations there. I'm not going to read them out.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. It is in the report. It is in the report, should you have that in front of you. Seconder? I'll second. Councillor Villiers. Councillor Sproul, do you wish to speak to this?
Through the mayor. So this tender is for specialist consultant panels and not specifically for one project. This enables council to access pre-approved specialists for consultant work. The evaluation received 97 applications, of which 80 were conforming and 17 were not. The result, after going through rigorous evaluation, was that 43 of the 80 conforming tenders were recommended. The sheer number of applicants gives you an idea of just how reliant we are upon consultancy firms these days. We may not necessarily like it, but that's what's required nowadays if you want to embark on a project or carry out certain work, especially if you want to attract state or federal government funding. Understandably, local knowledge is invaluable when undertaking some projects, but ultimately experts are often the ones who are required to ensure that all the information and advice is tested and true. This may not always run parallel with local advice, which can be frustrating, but is a necessary part of the process. In the litigation and risk management world, experts are essential. I did make note and question why in the tender process the financial benefit to council and in turn the ratepayers is so low. Typically, financial benefit is around 20 to 30%, with weighting up to 45%. For this particular evaluation, it is set at 15%. Whilst I'm still not 100% comfortable with this, I can understand the reasoning. Given that this is for a panel only, any future tenders would be subject to a separate evaluation criteria, which would more than likely better test the cost of those services and their financial benefit to council. Mind you, it's not until the $20,000 mark that the selective panel process would be triggered. Arguably, we want to attract the best consultants when we need them, and cost is relative, but I would also argue that this is the case with all the works that we contract out. I often hear comments about how much we spend on consultants, so I admit that I'm a little bit sensitive to this subject, but understand these are also required for council to meet their obligations, not only to funding and governing bodies, but also to the ratepayers themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councillor Sproul said it well. I could understand what this is all about. Thank you for that. And thank you to the officers for all the work they put in, because it's a huge job. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anyone else wish to speak to this motion? No, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 8.5, which is Welcome to Central Goldfields Evaluation Report. Now, the purpose of this report is to provide an evaluation of the Welcome Central Goldfields project, including recommendations and next steps. Welcome to Central Goldfields project was developed in response to staff and skill shortages that were impacting local employers in the Shire. The project was run from July 2022 through to January 2023 in partnership with the community through Community Reference Group and with Blackfella Films, a production company that documented the project. The evaluation provides a detailed evaluation based on interviews with participants and supported by economic and social data. The report highlights key success factors that community and businesses can build on and key learnings that have shaped the recommendations and next steps for consideration. Do I have a move?
And before you continue, the request,
And what would that be, Councillor?
whether we could defer decision on this whole report to a later date.
We have a request to defer. Okay,
So,
are you moving a motion to
to
defer?
defer this report to a later date until we have received more information to make an informed decision.
Thank you, Councillor. We have a seconder. No, we don't have a seconder, so that lapses. So we'll go back to the original. Do we have a mover? This Councillor Chris Meadows-Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation that council note the evaluation report, endorse the recommendations in the report, and thank the members of the Community Reference Group, businesses, and the volunteers who provided support for the project and the participants involved.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows-Taylor. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Wayne-Sprout, would you like to speak to this, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The origins of this lie back in 2021, where council led a study of businesses which showed alarmingly that over 2/3 had difficulty or severe difficulty in starting their organisations. Quite separately, Blackfella Films at the end of 2021 approached a group of community leaders, and then later with council in early 2022. They wanted to look at and produce a documentary looking at the impact of skilled migration, noting that that was prevalent in major cities, but less so, of course, in smaller regional centres. They chose Maryborough in the end. We didn't know whether it would be Maryborough. They came to talk to us, but came back to talk to council to say they wanted to choose Maryborough because of the effort that the council and the community were putting into trying to take the community forward to address a range of economic and social challenges. What this report does is actually reflect on a project that took place to actually put people's migrants into short-term vacancies, hoping that they would stay longer, to actually see the experience that the community and the businesses would have to help staff that have particular needs in businesses, but to also find the level of support within the community for the migration program. The evaluation report, I need to thank, I think, the CEO, particularly for the leadership in preparing this report, explains what we learned from that process. Quite clearly, we did that process really at the worst possible time with closed borders, the impact of COVID, a very, very difficult time. And so in terms of being able to staff a lot of vacancies that our businesses would have liked, that didn't happen. But there were important benefits, and it's really, that report actually shows those benefits, and it's important to note. It's helped our businesses understand the benefits of migration and, importantly, some of the issues in making migration work. We benefited from a lot of input funded by the project with the Adult Migrant Employment Service and the knowledge they had. We learned some of the pitfalls in terms of migration, particularly visas, the traps that visas have and managing that process. There was learning too about isolation, the need to provide support networks between particular communities, of migration and the need to support them. But importantly, our community not only rose to that challenge of making those migrants welcome, but rose wonderfully and magnificently. And we showed above all, I think, that our community is a welcoming community. It supported those migrants while they were with us. And I think that was really something to behold and see. Importantly, it also supported our commitment in the community vision to having a community that is diverse and welcoming and supports inclusion. So a lot of practical understanding, a lot of practical benefits, a lot of practical lessons and learning for our businesses that will help them in migration, even if some of those migrants didn't stay the length that we wanted and all sorts of practical difficulties, but there were some real benefits. This report shows those benefits and this is an important lesson and learning that will take our businesses forward and is welcome. And certainly thanks to so many that work hard to make this succeed as the motion identifies. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Second, Councillor Sproul, would you like to?
Thank you, ma'am. I was a little bit sceptical of this when it was first pitched. This was a project that started with the community and council had a choice to be part of it or sit on the sidelines. I must admit I was a bit shocked at the overwhelming support the project received from a number of community members. People gave up rooms in their homes and welcomed these people with open arms. I have no idea what the resulting documentary will show. That may be part reason for Councillor de Villiers' wish to defer the report. The learnings from going through the process, however, will be valuable and will help guide us going forwards. Originally, I thought this was about bringing overseas workers in, which was wrong. The project identified individuals and families that were already settled in Australia and tried to expose them to the benefits of living in regional and rural Victoria. We know some of our local businesses and organisations are struggling to find qualified people to fill roles like teachers and medical staff. I believe, unfortunately, all but one person chose to stay here, but the evaluation report highlights some of the areas we need to work on and address. Sometimes being close to two large regional centres is a bonus, but I feel being so close to Ballarat and Bendigo makes it harder for our shire to attract and retain staff, as those two regional centres have a lot more to offer on the surface. Larger populations have felt to bring forward and arguably better services and opportunities. The report highlighted the need to have better alignment between mentor and volunteers, more targeted information and support for migrants, more training for employers to better understand the needs of migrant families. We also need a better supply of housing, which at that particular time was in very short supply. Factors such as low availability of childcare was also an issue. The report states that the median income of people in the Central Goldfields is also lower than the regional average. Combine that with a competitive jobs market and the close proximity to the larger towns, and it's easy to see some of the challenges we face. Although this shows that our community is willing to explore options and support each other when faced with difficult issues, this in itself is something that all involved should be proud of. This project connected lots of different people and organisations with positive results. Our shire and community is not alone in workplace shortages, and many communities are trying different things to see what works for them. Our current work with Tilt is one such exercise. Whilst this program was aimed at migrant workers, I feel going forwards any efforts should also be inclusive of our residents who are currently unemployed in our shire, as I feel this would have a greater impact on the whole of our community.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Is there anyone against this? Councillor Murphy.
I concur with Councillor Meadows, Taylor and Councillor Sproul. I totally feel that Blackfella Films hijacked the whole situation. I really can't believe what this documentary is going to be about. I've been talking to people who are actually into it, and they actually in the documentary. They're not very happy with it, the way they were treated. So I believe in the evaluation of what we were doing, but Blackfella Films came in and really drove a lot of this, the migrant things, getting the migrants here which are migrants, are local, there are people from Melbourne or Adelaide or whatever, and there's and so on, and things like the housing shortages. We had housing shortages anyway. We had no room in kindergartens anyway. There's things that we do know. So my thing is that do I say yes? Yeah, let's go through and the evaluation. We're all happy, or does someone has to stand up and say, I'm not sure about what this whole documentary thing was about. I'm not sure too much about it in the long run. I know this evaluation report is probably not more or less about that. It's about how we went through it with the volunteers and welcoming people to the community, getting them jobs. I can understand all that. Councillor Sproul said there are local people that need jobs. There are people who we've got to look after too as well up here. So I think that is important as well. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just not sure of the documentary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Did we have to speak for? We had a speaker against. Can I sort of say my bit? Yes, well, I decided you to. Thank you.
I would like to point out this whole production was never not sure, please. I would like to point out, thanks Judy, that this Black Filler Productions was never an official council initiative or project. One of the main findings in the report was that community people within the community were unsure of who was ultimately responsible for the project. One of the comparisons used in the report was Adelaide. The difference between this project and the one in Adelaide was that in Adelaide, the council took responsibility and they were the main driving force for the project, seeking funding and having a well-developed project plan with a workforce to support the project. So they ended up with successfully recruiting 18 workers over the duration of a year. We did our project, conducted our project, and I think we've got one worker left. So I guess what I'm saying is that I do not feel or believe that we have seen the conclusion of this project yet. And I would rather have waited until we've seen footage of the Black Filler Productions production at the end of this year, before we adopt or ratify this report.
Thank you, Councillor Villiers. Would anyone else like to say something? Well, I would as a Maryborough Ward councillor.
I'd like right to reply.
When I've finished, after I've finished, and you certainly would get that in Meadows Taylor. I, for one, am not comfortable in endorsing this evaluation report, as I do not quite understand the urgency of now. I must ask, is this the cart before the horse scenario? Now, the recommendations being the council note evaluation report, that's one of the recommendations. This goes without saying, we had noted the report. I will go to number 3. Thank the members of the Community Reference Group, businesses and the volunteers who provided support to the project and participants involved. Well, we can do that through a letter right now, so there's no urgency to endorse that section. I go then to item number 2, endorse the recommendations in this report. 5.2 of the report states the Community Reference Group, in partnership with Central Goldfields Shire Council, will be responsible for determining how the following 6 recommendations might be implemented over time and in the absence of any ongoing dedicated funds. Now, 5.2.1 facilitate and coordinate a coordinated approach to recruiting migrant employees. I again cannot understand the urgency in council endorsed evaluation report until we see the final sign off of Blackfella Films, who are our pilot partners. And that's on page 13, and it's 3.4, being the footage. That is the footage we need to see depicting our shire. And after seeing the footage, the evaluation report content may or may not alter. And to facilitate a coordinated approach to short-term housing solutions with community and business leaders, well, we are totally aware we have housing shortage, only with a 3 to 5 year supply at best. We are currently doing work on the industrial and housing strategy, and until that is complete, we do not have a defined way forward in relation to short-term or indeed long-term housing solutions. Now, there's a quote on page 17 of the report. It just takes time to link everything we need to be realistic about that, i.e. housing, jobs, the right candidates, schools, childcare, etc. That's true. I believe it is prudent to take time now until we see final footage with our Welcome to Central Goldfields partners, Blackfella Films, before we even consider endorsing anything around this council table. Thank you. Right reply, Councillor Menzies Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I note the comments. I think we have to separate very clearly the evaluation report, which talks about the process of bringing people here to work, bringing their families, what they experience, what the community learned from this, the learning particularly of the businesses, how the businesses understood better the issues and the challenges that they face, and how they learned to use migration better to meet their very real needs in staffing their organisations. The documentary will follow, and that is separate and distinct from the process of what has been learned, what worked, what didn't work so well, which this report actually addresses. So much that I appreciate and understand that there's interest in what a resulting documentary, should it appear, actually has, and if should it appear, I'm sure we'll all be watching it with interest. But that is separate and distinct to this report, which deals with the process which has taken our employers, as they've all agreed, forward in terms of their learning and understanding. This report captures that process, captures the learning and the lessons, and should be noted and valued at this stage, and delaying it simply serves no useful purpose at all, and is completely separate again to the issue of what documentary should be done.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I will now put the motion. All those in favour of this motion? Those against? Division. I'll call a division for this. Thank you. Those in favour of this motion? Councillor Sproul, Councillor Long, Councillor Chris Meadows Taylor, Councillor, oh, you've changed your position. Councillor, no, you've had an opportunity. Councillor Lovett and Councillor Murphy. Those against, Councillor de Villiers and Councillor Lavella. Thank you. All right, moving on to
Motion carried, Madam.
motion carried. Thank you. Sorry about that, Councillor. Moving on to 8.6, goods shed advocacy. Can I call for a mover, please?
Madam Mayor. Hi, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative to the officer's recommendation, a slight alternative. And my motion is this, that Council, 1, note the response from the Minister for Public Transport, the Honourable Ben Carroll MP, and 2, request the member for Ripon, Martha Haylett MP, to make further representations to the minister to enable Maryborough Railway Station to be made available for community use.
Thank you, councillor.
Richard, I'm sorry, but I'll leave that. Thank you.
Can you repeat that?
Couldn't read my own writing.
So that clarification is, like to repeat that?
Yes, you want me to read it? The second bit, the first bit is as the second bit, request the member for Ripon, Martha Haylett MP, to make further representations to the minister to enable Maryborough Railway Station woodshed be made available for community use. Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Do we have a second of that motion? Councillor Murphy, Councillor Meadows Taylor, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies again for that important omission. Timing is everything, Madam Mayor, and yes, it is disappointing to note that post-election, with a number of things in an austerity situation are being knocked back, we had a negative response from the Minister for Transport, the Honourable Ian Carroll MP. The request had been that we had the woodshed, which had been previously nominated to council for community use some years ago. We weren't able to take that up at the time, but we've made that request, but unfortunately it got knocked back, and the minister pointing out that it was needed for storage purposes. Now, the reality is storage is available in lots and lots of locations. The Maryborough Railway Station is the jewel in the crown, without any doubt. And the woodshed is an important part of that heritage, which can be used very much for community purposes with great benefits and will complement the existing use of the station and increase the range of benefits and options that we can use the woodshed for. Yes, timing is everything, and we didn't manage to secure the allocation at this stage. But I think the member for Ripon understands the importance of it, is well placed to continue to make representations to the minister, and hopefully she'll do that, and hopefully she'll have some great success. So that's information indeed.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Murphy.
I just can't see what problems would be like. The railway station, as we know, is going through a transformation now. And without council and the state government putting money in and making it happen, it'd just be 2 ticket boxes and a couple of trains. 2 trains going up and down. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. Everything be vacant. Like, come on, Beeline. There's other places you can put your storage. You can build it. You can build a shed up the other end of the where everything is there, all those pipes are. I've never seen anyone going there into that area. Now let's be realistic. Up in Warragul, they moved their good shed, moved it around about 100 to 150 metres to another area, so they could have all the car parking put in there, and then they could go over a walkway. And that's become an art space or something like that. There's railway stations around Victoria who are art spaces, who are closed railway stations who become art spaces. I understand we've got to be more, I think we're more hard hitting here. I think what Councillor Meadows Taylor is saying is right, but we have to really keep pushing this. The advocacy word is not the right word. Word is getting through to Martha Haylett, getting through to ministers, and keep pushing the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Murphy. All right, we'll move this item. Those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 8.7, microphones, please. Sorry. Moving on to 8.7, 23 community satisfaction survey results. Now, the purpose of this report is to provide an analysis of community satisfaction survey results for council for 2022. For this year's results, council moved to a quarterly data collection in line with best practice and to alleviate risks associated with seasonality factors which can skew satisfaction results. Do I have a mover for this, please? Chris Meadows-Taylor.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that council note the results of the Community Satisfaction Survey 2023, Central Goldcoast Shire Council, and receive a report at the June council meeting, which we're doing, and make the Community Satisfaction Survey available on council's website.
Thank you, councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anna de Villiers. Councillor Chris Meadows-Taylor, would you like to speak?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I think every council around Victoria, probably around Australia, would be who receives satisfaction surveys would be wanting to do better. The reality is councils are closely connected to their community, and our community, together with a lot of other communities, are doing it tougher. For reasons we understand. COVID still has played out a lot of nasty residue issues. Inflation is high, job insecurity is a problem with businesses closing, cost of living, mortgages, all these things impact and make living tough. And the world at the moment is not the happiest place to be. Unfortunately, when those things play out, councils, which are the closest level of government, suffer. And what we see in the survey for 2023 is a decline across the board, that is similar sized councils and overall councils in most measures. And we're not immune from that. It would be lovely to swim upstream against the current, but we haven't. Some things are hard to explain and vary from year to year. Really, things like waste management, appearance of public places, really don't change. Waste management's contracted out. So when they change and vary, I think it just depends perhaps how people are feeling at that point in time who survey. But when we turn to some of the key measures in this, and the key measures, the headline measures are overall performance, value for money, council direction, and customer service. Yes, some of our end indicators have gone down, but you know what? They have actually gone down less than the overall councils and our cohort council. And we've held our own in difficult times. And I think it's particularly too, I just want to draw your attention to, Madam Mayor, particularly council direction. That is the leadership provided by this council, the elected council, and working with the executive team. We've held our own. In fact, we actually were 1%, one mark higher, which probably is not statistically significant, but we are nonetheless in relation to similar sized council. That is reassuring. That is saying that we are on par in providing the sort of leadership that our community needs and expect across the system. Similarly, against the tide, the customer service has actually gone up. And we know the difficulties that we have recruiting people, as was previous councillor said before. We know, I think Councillor Sprout, we're in between two regional cities. It's difficult to recruit staff. It's difficult to attract them, despite the CEO. I think the CEO's approach to flexible staffing has been copied by a lot of other councils now. It's an competitive advantage to make things attractive and flexible to meet their needs. So it's hard, but nonetheless, we have gone up in customer satisfaction. And that is an all-star vote to take congratulations to all managers and executives for that. So look, I think this is not what we ideally want. It's not what any council wants. We want to achieve a perfect result, but overall, I think there's something that we should take satisfaction from in this. We will, of course, continue to do work better, but with council direction as it is, with the customer service improving. Let's continue to work hard. Let's continue to do what we do. It is what it is, but And we'll share it with our community with that commitment we continue to work at. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Seconder, would you like to speak, councillor de Villiers?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to add. I would just like to add that this survey was interesting to read and to go through. It's basically steady as she goes, almost the same as last year. In some areas we have improved marginally and dropped in others. The biggest drop in ratings was with roads and road maintenance, but I think a lot of that can be attributed to the weather things we've had since October and especially in January, that did not do the roads any service. So the bottom line is that we cannot sit back and relax. Thank you to the staff for all the work they've done in preparing this report.
Thank you, councillor de Villiers. Do I have anyone wishing to speak? Councillor Wayne Sprout.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With these, I sometimes reflect on my everyday job. Every year we have an employee engagement survey, and every year it's average or below average, yet we're all still there. We all turn up for work, none of us have left. Personally, I find it interesting because in this role, as a councillor, you know, we cop the criticism, yet in my day job, I'm usually the one giving it. So I suppose it depends on which side of the table you're sitting on at the time. I have no doubt my employer thinks they're doing a good job, but yet we often criticise them. Council's probably no different. You know, maybe perception can only be clearer with better communication. Just food for thought. These numbers aren't exactly what we're hoping to see. We could try and sugarcoat them, but in reality, that wouldn't achieve much. Yes, we want to see better satisfaction results. Believe it or not, continual improvement is something we all work towards in one way or another. Numbers are the numbers. We're not really that different from previous years or even from other small rural shires, but that doesn't make it right. However, we do have hard-working people trying to do their best for the shire in many ways. Do we focus on the negatives or do we reflect on the wins, however small, and build from there? Not ignoring the downsides, but we're not going to make everyone happy either, as we all want different things. The most important thing is we keep our vision and keep chipping away. No doubt we'll cop some flack over these results, and fair enough to a certain degree. But I work with some amazing people, both staff and volunteers, on different projects, and they wouldn't be there if we didn't believe in what we can achieve together. Roads, yeah, they're a bit rubbish at the moment. Most are probably state government roads. That's not an excuse. It's just the way it is for sealed roads anyway. The data we have on our road condition doesn't really match the results given, which make things interesting. I think it's a bit of a rock and a hard place story. Patch a pothole, for example, the response. Why don't they fix it properly? Fix it properly. Fix it probably costs a serious amount of money. Why are my rates so high? Or why has council cut that service? Leave the potholes. Our roads are so bad. What are council doing? I travel to Ballarat most days and the roads aren't great. But I probably now have a greater understanding what small rural shires are dealing with, so I'm a bit more sympathetic. I'm not asking for sympathy, more an understanding that we are sometimes limited in how we can respond. The weather is probably no real help either. Patch a hole now and the water gets underneath it and you're back to square one. I don't know, maybe there's a better way of patching asphalt, I'm not sure. So I'm sure we'll reflect on the results and hopefully make some changes and try and improve in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Sprout. Do we have someone else who wishes to speak to this item? Councillor Murphy.
Been around council for 2012. I thought this type of thing's a bit of nonsense. We have to do it because the state government tells you to do it. Costs us a lot of money to do it, a lot of time. We end up being around the same every year. We're 52% and small rules 55%. It just annoys me that they ring up at 6 o'clock at night when people are having something to eat. And people are going to sport on a Saturday morning. They ring, I got this phone call. I'm going to sport. You want me to answer a phone call? A survey. They thought it was us. See, twits. So what I'm trying to say is, you can take it and leave it. What Councillor Sproul was saying about roads is so true. Now I got a punch on a big road the other day. I stayed there for 6 hours. Had to get a tilt truck. Because the big roads. No one understands what roads are. Some people do, some people don't. And then we've got roads that need to be done, and then we don't have the funding because we've got the tightest budget in heaven. Sorry, on earth. And you're in a rock and a hard place with these type of things. I can understand people getting upset and aggravated like I do, and you go, why can't these things be done on the phone? Yes, it's the roads, or yes, it's this, or yes, it's that. But in general, we're 52%, small rules 55%. That's in the general situation, and you go back to 2019 was a better year, but then 14 to 16 was good years. Then the years that's been no good is really 2021, the pandemic years, and it's getting a little bit better, but it's no. It'll be interesting to see what it is in 10 years' time. And like I said, I'm just at a loss with these people ringing up at lunchtime, night time, and before they go to school. I've had 3 people get hold of me. So 2 of them at 6 o'clock at night, 6-ish, getting the meals on the table, and then one was when I'm going to sport. How do I deal with that? So there you go. That's my tirade.
Would anyone else like to speak? I'd just like to add, 400 people are phoned in this survey, and reflecting on what you said, depending on what time of day that you're getting them, they're going to think we're annoying. We are an annoyance, and we've got 13,500 roughly in our shire. How can that reflect the true sense of community satisfaction? Anyway, enough said by me. Let's put it. Those in favour of this report? Those against? That is unanimous. Moving on to 8.8, Talbot Futures Project and Draft Structure Plan. The purpose of this report is to consider endorsing the Talbot's Draft Structure Plan and supporting documents for the purpose of undertaking public consultation. Do I have a mover, please?
Madam Mayor.
Are you exhausted? Are you exhausted?
I have on a roll, Madam Mayor.
Miss Meadows Taylor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the council endorse the Talbot Draft Structure Plan and supporting documents for purposes of undertaking public consultation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor LeBlanc. Councillor Miss Meadows Taylor, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is indeed an exciting motion to move. This is the most exciting thing to have happened to Talbot since the gold rush, without a doubt, because this is about a future for Talbot. And you just have to look alone at population figures. To the population since the gold rush in Talbot has steadily declined because of the lack of manufacturing. Well, the gold ran out, lack of manufacturing, decline of rail, or a whole lot of other things. Now, you look at the population projections in this report by 2051, between 1374 and 1746. Now, figures like that have not been had in Talbot since 1891. So quite a significant change. But this is not just about population increase. This is about sustainable population increase. This is about keeping the character, the heritage, the charm that people love about Talbot, the uniqueness. And this is about sustainable growth. This is about a process that people have participated in and been able to say what they want to achieve in Talbot, what they want to keep and retain. But this is also about in the growth, the sustainable growth. This is about giving businesses, community organisations, sporting organisations, even those that manage our infrastructure, our heritage infrastructure, a better chance. Talbot kicks above its weight in so many ways, but always struggles because there's just not quite enough of anything, or not quite enough people, not quite enough money, not quite enough of anything. So this gives the opportunity through sewerage to be able to grow. And we need the sewerage. It's about a healthier alternative that enables growth, enables Talbot to do its bit within the Shire for population growth. This is a wonderful way forward. This has been a great report. It's been a great process. I really look forward to the input from it, from the community, and thank all those both within the community that have contributed to this. Also want to thank the CEO who did some sort of very deep work with the with Artie, the manager, to actually secure the funding for this. So thank you for that too, because the funding to enable this is going to be critical. Sewerage will be the next big step. So we're looking to Martha Hale, the MP, and the government to deliver on that. But this is a very exciting report. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Councillor Long, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't have much to say, but I just wanted to wish Councillor Meadows Taylor a hearty congratulations. I know how much he's advocated for this, and to see this come to fruition and now go to public consultation, I think it's just wonderful for his ward and his residents. So well done to all involved.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Murphy.
I've been very happy with this. I can see the vacant land which is around I can see the vacant land which is around the town, land which can't be used for anything because the blocks are too small because you can't get septic in there. And then there's bigger blocks which you can put septic in there, but do they build a house now or not build a house now? And I don't think it's only one place down there, the railway line has been built at the moment, and it's on 5 acres or 10 acres or something like that. That's been built in the last 4 or 5 years. There's not many have been built in time that I've been back in Maryborough that I know of. So the land will open up with sewage. It may be difficult for some people to deal with sewage, but the land will open up. It will open up the town. The kindergarten will get bigger. The school will get bigger. Might be a little mini mart in there. So as we go on and we look for 10 years down the track, as we get hopefully sewage in the next 4 or 5 years, then 10, 15 years down the track when Councillor Meadows Taylor and I might be somewhere else, that we actually you leave a legacy to the place. And this has been a big part of Councillor Meadows Taylor's outlook and goals for a number of years that he's been on this council. I commend him for all his work on this. I see it in the background, and I just want to go forward with his, and we get to the end where after the public consultation, and we get to an end where we can go forward and we can hopefully get sewage and we move down that track. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Would anyone else wish to speak? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That is unanimous. Moving on to 8.9, extension of current waste collection contract. This purpose of this report is to consider an extension of the contract G1019-15 waste services, and that's the waste collection component, from the current expiry date of 4th October 23 to 4th February 24. Do I have a mover? Councillor Murphy.
Move the recommendation as Pierre has just said, and we also, it's due to October the 4th, 23 to 4th of February 24, and authorise the CEO to execute the extension under delegation. This is important. Waste is important. We get past some of the real things in a shire, in a council. When we say road.
Councillor Murphy.
When we say roads.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Okay, thank you.
For a seconder.
I didn't second.
Second that
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Lovett. Councillor Murphy, would you like to continue?
I just go.
Continue
I
now.
was looking at the green light and it's not green.
Yes, I'll put it up.
Can I? Oh, mine's going now. Okay. So I was got the verbatim going. Anyway. Waste is important. So. Issues are the level of preparation required to take into consideration. Volatile nature of this industry, which is probably a lot of industries, has impacted the timing of the tendering process, which has reduced the ideal time between awarding and commencing the contract. Providing adequate preparation transition process between the two contracts, an extension to current waste collection, 4 months from October 23rd to February 24th is being sought, and that's what this recommendation is. The value of the variation is within the allocated budget of this service at an estimated cost of $640,000. The proposed variation extends the total contract value past the limit of the Chief Executive Officer's financial delegation, and therefore requires council to approve.
Thank you, councillor Murphy. Councillor Lovett, would you like to say?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The waste collection service contract is council's largest service contract. And it's a service that is valued highly by our ratepayers. As I said earlier, waste service is definitely on council's risk register radar, so we have to get this new contract right. The current tender is currently being advertised for waste collection services that will accommodate changes since the awarding of the previous contract, changes to legislation. The level of preparation required to take into consideration the volatile nature of this industry has impacted the timing, and that's why we need to seek this extension. This extension, if granted, will allow an efficient transition to the new waste collection contract and reduce the risk of service failure whilst the transition is in place. And I think we need to make it publicly known that the adoption of this motion to extend the current contract will not cost council anything above what is already budgeted. So it is actually cost neutral, but a very wise decision if carried. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Now, anyone else wish to speak to that motion? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you very much. Items 8.10, the Community Planning Review Project. The purpose of this report is to provide recommendations for next steps for the Community Planning Review Project and an update on the outcomes of the recent community plan workshop at Maryborough Golf Club. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Elizabeth Long.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the recommendation that Council 1 note the key findings from the Community Planning Review Project. Number 2, endorse the small wins outlined in this report for implementation. And number 3, endorse the development of a partnership model to progress community planning. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Meadows Taylor. Councillor Long, would you like to?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. It's my great pleasure to move this motion in regards to the Community Planning Review Project. This all started back in 2019 when 1,035 residents across 8 districts, Bialaba, Bet-Bet, Carisbrook, Denali, Majorca, Maryborough, Talbot and Timor, came together to outline a 10-year plan for each of their communities. Fast forward to early 2023, with plans now almost halfway through their 10-year life, Council decided to learn more about and reflect on the achievements, challenges and needs of our place-based community plans. The officer's report makes a very interesting reading, and I urge everyone to have a look at it if that's sort of the thing, and focuses on 3 key aspects. Number 1, note the key findings from the Community Planning Review Project. Number 2, endorse the small wins outlined in this report for implementation. And number 3, endorse the development of a partnership model to progress community planning. So last month, on the 31st of May, Council staff, the executive team, Council and councillors met with residents at the Maryborough Golf Club for a workshop. The purpose of this workshop was to invite community members from all townships in Maryborough to discuss and provide feedback on the key findings of the review process. Feedback on specific plans was sought. The event featured lots of butcher paper, coloured textures and sticky notes, and was a great success with individual councillors hosting their local wards by tables. Conversations were robust and constructive with some solid suggestions in how communities are better able to work with council on a whole range of topics ranging from community event organisation to how to get in touch with the right council member for the right inquiry. So what has council learned about community planning and what does this mean in terms of the next steps? Council learned that while the principles of community planning are based on the understanding that local people are invariably the best source of knowledge and wisdom about their needs, aspirations and place, community planning does depend on genuine partnership with local government. Both council and community have a role and responsibilities to help get better at community planning. For council, practical steps fall into three key areas, including small wins, a partnership model, and funding a community development officer role to support community planning. I can only hope that this partnership will be strengthened in the future so that our communities can thrive and become the best they can be, no matter how big or small. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lyon. Would anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor de Villiers, I think I saw that.
I was seconding the motion.
Oh, you're seconding them.
That's right.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead, councillor Chris Meadows Taylor.
Look, thanks, Amy. Look, I think that Councillor Long has really summarised it all. I just think it was a fantastic evening that evening in May. What was so good was so many who attended, everyone getting together, councillors, residents, officers, all working together, saying, how can we make this work better? How can we make community planning really work for us? That level of enthusiasm, level of creativity, the level of practical solutions about it was absolutely fabulous. And I think it would be really congratulations to our community engagement team that made it happen. But an important, really important part of all of this, and Councillor Sproul, I think, mentioned it earlier, is the community development officer that we've managed to fund the budget. Because what we know from this is there has to be a glue to pull all this work together and work with a link between council and community, or community, I should say, and council and community plan to make this happen. That community development officer will play an absolutely key role in this. I think we're looking at a very exciting time ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Chris Meadows Taylor. Councillor Villiers, did you wish to speak to this? Okay, thank you. All right, would anyone else wish to speak? I'll put the motion, all in favour? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 9, notice of motion. There's no notices of motion. Number 10, urgent business. There is no urgent business. Item number 11 is confidential business. We will go into camera for this item. Councillor Murphy.
The council will close the meeting to the public in accordance with section 66 3A and 3G to consider item 11 in accordance with section
Before we go into
3A, excuse me, 3G to consider item 11 in accordance with section
Disconnected to get rid of that.
3A, excuse me, 3G to consider item
before we go into camera.
Sorry about that. So who's got the green button on? Start again. Recommendation, the council close the meeting to the public according to section 66 3A and 3G to consider item 11.1. Consideration of confidential matters related to the Mayor of Arrowdale.
Councillor Murphy. Now, before we close the meeting, we will we'll vote. Oh, certainly, we'll vote on that motion to go into camera. Do we have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Chris Meadows Taylor. Apologise for that. I was just giving. So we won't speak to it at this point in time. Will be closing the meeting. Yeah, we'll vote on the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. We will be closing the meeting now because we won't come back and waste everyone's time. I want to thank the gallery for being here tonight. I'd like to thank the virtual gallery And we will see you next month. Thank you very much.